coming up.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of This Feral Life. Glad to have you with us. Sorry I missed you last week. It was Merika Day, and we were busy almost dying at SeaWorld.
Oh yeah, that was
They almost killed us.
that was an unpleasant experience.
Yeah, I mean, that was my first time ever going to SeaWorld, and naturally they try to kill me. First off, I was unaware that SeaWorld doesn't have animals. Okay, it has...
They do.
They have flamingos, some janky penguins,
They have the orcas,
the two
dolphins.
giant whales. I didn't see
The
any
penguins
dolphins.
are not janky. I love the penguins.
And then two very large sea turtles. And that was it. Like, that was it. I thought SeaWorld would be like animals. No, it's not a zoo. The thing's like cheap ass. What is that place you want to go to all the time? Disneyland.
I want to go. Do not ruin Disneyland for me.
It's like a cheaper Disneyland.
Don't do it.
Well-
I love Disneyland. We are going to Disneyland.
Anyway, we have like tickets, right? Because we pay a certain amount and you get tickets to like free go there all the time.
I'm a platinum member.
Yeah, whatever that means. Because my wife likes to go there, walk around. It gives the daughter a chance to get really tired. She looks at a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
She says hi to the like 6 penguins and like a few flamingos. By the way, if I get a chance, I'm totally taking a flamingo home. I think our front yard would look really good with a live flamingo.
They were very pretty.
They were very pretty. I was
So
pretty
I'm just
impressed.
that mom that likes to take my daughter to lunch on a Saturday, and then we stroll around and get some steps in. So I love walking 3 miles there, and it's perfect. And she loves the horsies and watching the penguins and all this stuff. So
despite
let's talk about that night.
despite
We're
being
calling
a
you out.
platinum member,
Yeah.
I had never been. And so because you always go when I'm at work.
I can't help that your work schedule does not accommodate my schedule.
So
But we work with it.
I'm
So
like,
I decided that, hey, they're going to have a cool firework display. Let's go. And so it was just one of those last minute spur of the moment things. I hadn't read reviews or anything. Maybe if I had, I would have known beforehand. So that's me not prepping, okay? But maybe I would have known how disastrous it could have potentially been, and which it was. So it was about 50,000 people deep. Like, no joke.
God,
I mean, it was an ungodly amount of people.
I'd say
and
there's probably closer to 100,000.
the firework display was in the middle of the lake in the center of the park, and you could literally see like people just crowded and clustered around the whole lake all the way around. I mean, it was pretty daunting to see that a sea of people on every side. And so we're enjoying the firework display, and I thought it was okay. From what I read, though, people were like, it was very subpar.
It had exactly 5 more fireworks
Yeah.
than their normal every night display.
I just wanted to take my daughter, or our daughter, to go see some fireworks, that night. So we thought, okay, it's a controlled area. They're going to have some fireworks. At least she gets to see them and enjoy them. And most importantly, like, it's free because we're platinum members. So free parking, free entry, all that good stuff. So I thought it was a great idea. And boy, was I wrong. So they had the display,
They had nowhere for anybody to sit.
Nowhere for anybody to sit. I really thought that they were going to use the stadium, but like I said, it was a sea of people on every side, like anywhere you turned, and it was just incredibly daunting to see that many people clustered in that small of area. Anyway, so then they had the display. I see people start leaving and walking off, which we should have done, but I'm here, like, we're waiting for the grand finale of fireworks, I guess.
It didn't happen.
Thinking, like, it's going to happen, there's going to be more. And then nothing happened, right? But by that time, like, people were already leaving in droves.
Well, here's the part that bothered me about that, is that they knew it was a holiday, that they were going to have holiday surge of people, and yet they didn't staff for it. They let all the staff go, like, at the normal time instead of, like, because they stayed later to do the fireworks show, right? It happened after the park would normally be closed. So everybody that was supposed to go home on time went home. Like, they turned off the lights and went home.
Literally turned off the lights,
There was
incredibly surprising.
You've got 100,000 people or so in a park many miles from the entrance, and it's solid pitch black. There's no lights at all. all the security went home. All the workers
There's
went home.
no crowd control.
None at
No
all.
lighting.
None
I mean,
at
this
all.
could have been one of those situations where somebody could have just
Freaked out,
freaked out,
screamed.
made the wrong move, and people were there was gonna be a trample.
There's going to be a trampling, yeah.
So
Because we were literally like elbow to elbow with just a sea of people.
Yeah.
And nobody really knew where they were going. Like, you'd be following, like, with just the herd. And then you'd run into, like, a wall.
Let me describe how close you're following each other, because that's how many people were in that area. It was like you're literally taking these little tiny steps forward and literally on somebody's heels already. So how close are you to literally touch the person in front of you, their heels? I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Well, it's so dark that everybody, like, you couldn't see anything. And
I felt claustrophobic. I mean,
yeah.
I'm short.
I had to put our daughter up on my shoulders just to keep her from getting squished. And it was miserable. People like, oh, why didn't you turn your cell phone camera on? I was like, yeah, a lot of people did, but here's the problem: is your cell phone camera is not going to reach out there 200 yards or so and let you see that there's a fence or a gate or something there. When I say it's pitch black,
it's pitch black. Like, I literally had to turn on the light on my cell phone and shine it in front of my husband and myself so that we, like, could see, and like people around me, I could tell they were grateful for it. But I'm shorter, so I'm starting to feel claustrophobic, and I'm like, okay, we're almost there, and it's a good walk around the park. I mean, you're talking if the full park is like, I think it's about 3 miles, if I calculate correctly, it's about 3 miles. But it was like half the park, because you're walking to the exit, so it was like 1.5 miles at least, just walking at that pace behind people in the dark, and you can't breathe. And it was pretty scary.
It took us an hour.
So that's
plus.
Not even the worst part. Yeah. So let's get to the next part.
Oh yeah.
So then they have us
no traffic control,
funneling into 1 or 3 open gates.
Now they have a whole bunch of them. They just
chose not to open the other
went
ones.
Home.
Yeah.
And so they just locked up their gates.
I guess they didn't have enough security or manpower to like man the gates or whatever the case may be.
One security guard the entire time.
So then we get to our vehicles, and naturally everybody starts trying to back up and drive out. Before we know it, there's a cluster of vehicles, some of them backing into each other, people yelling, people flipping each other off.
Because they just spent like an hour and a half trying to get out in the pitch black dark.
No crowd control. Like, you couldn't even move. So me and my husband chose not to even start the vehicle. I mean, we started the vehicle. We had air conditioning. But we chose not to move because why? There was nowhere to go. Literally nowhere to go.
Just popped the trunk and started making like lemonade.
So that's another story too. I decided that I was going to make fresh lemonades, and I had all the supplies with me. And it was just funny. I was like, you know what? It is damn hot. I am thirsty. I'm just going to pop the back of my truck and make a fresh lemonade. People thought it was hilarious. I should have really started selling them, honestly, if I wanted to monetize and capitalize on the moment.
People
but no.
Totally would have.
Yeah, people were walking by and stuff, but I wasn't going to do that. People were not in the mood, and I just did not want to. I don't know. I didn't think it was a good idea.
Another hour and a half to get out of that parking lot.
We were there for an hour and a half, so we finally got to our vehicle.
There was the one shirtless guy who decided to drive, like the drunk shirtless guy.
What time did the display end? I would say the display ended no later than like 10 something.
He directed traffic.
Didn't get out of the entire park and the parking lot until about almost 1 a.m.
Shirtless guy is a hero.
Yes, Mr. Shirtless Guy, we applaud you.
Yes.
We recognize you. We saw you. He had his shirt on. He was not shirtless. He had his shirt on. Gentlemen, you are a scholar and a hero, and thank you very much for taking the initiative to like start directing traffic and getting us out of that clusterfuck. I'm sorry. I'm going to cuss because it really was bad. It deserved it. So it was just really bad.
Well, they also shut down all but 1 or 2 lanes. Now, there's a whole bunch of lanes normally to get in and out of SeaWorld. But they shut them all down because all the people manning them went home. So there was only like the maintenance, like where the garbage trucks come in and out.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Never again. I'm never going on a holiday again. Ever again.
Well, I mean, you should do holidays my way.
Yeah.
My way is more fun. Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, we learned our lesson, but we just wanted to share that story because it was freaky and it was dangerous.
0 out of 10. Do not recommend.
Yeah. Do not recommend. So anyway, moving on.
If you see me start talking nice about SeaWorld, it's because they offered me a lot of money. And
maybe it was you. I mean, I've always had a great time out, but you know what? I always go on the weekend, during the day, on not a holiday. And so we get to I'm talking like I get to get my walk in, and my daughter gets to enjoy the rides and the shows and all that good stuff, and we love it, and it just gives us something to do. So anyway, hopefully we don't have that same experience when we go to Disney, because it's gonna happen.
I
So
don't know. Why do we have to
I
go to
don't.
Disneyland?
I'm going.
Is
I'm
it because
going.
you don't love me anymore?
I know you're going with me. I'm gonna drag you, and we'll stay at the Disney resort, the Safari Resort.
I can't. Can I send
Animal Kingdom
like
or
when
whatever.
people get it? What old time in days when they got into combat, they could send a second. Like
There's no second. You don't have a clone.
I just send somebody else who wants to go, friend.
Oh, don't even volunteer that, because my BFF will definitely jump at that.
Cool. I'll go fishing. Who wants to meet down at the coast and have a hell of a blowout fishing barbecue trip while the wife's going to Disney World? You'll have a hell of a lot of fun.
You can't do that. That's not a thing.
Why?
You can't compete with my fun.
My fun's more fun.
No, not without me.
Mine
It's not.
doesn't have.
At least that's not what you tell me. So.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be great. I have a lot of fun. We go fishing and hang out with people I actually like, and not have to breathe everybody's air. It'd be a great time. Anyway, today's episode is going to be about bread making bread, the history of bread, all sorts of fun stuff like that. Bread is a very, very important survival item, and it's going to be in short coming here pretty quick. Thank you, bad weather. Yay, bad weather.
This whole
Man,
throwing
it's
off
been
the
just
climate.
a
It's
terrible
been
season
terrible
for it, too.
for a lot of people, a lot of farmers, a lot of crops.
Yeah, like
Terrible.
So I got a little bit of history of the bread coming up here. One really, really cool thing is that so they found that charred crumbs of flatbread made by the Natufian hunter-gatherers from wild wheat and wild barley, mixed with plant roots. It was between 14,600 and 11,600 years ago. That was at Shibaku, Black Desert in Jordan. Now, predating that, they have grinding stones and like old mill parts that are over 30,000 years old. That's crazy, but back then they were probably grinding like seeds and not necessarily wheat, maybe like sunflower, things like that. But that is really pretty interesting, especially like Australia and Europe. There's no definitive evidence that they had advanced tools for making bread back then. So if we talk about bread agriculture, wheat was domesticated in the Fertile Crescent. Neolithic sites in Turkey and Europe started having what we would call like semi-modern type breads at about 9,100 years ago. Now, to give you perspective, that is like 4.5 Jesuses ago.
Wow.
What?
I thought you only measured things in beer.
That is too big of about a time to measure in beer. That would be a lot of beer. But we could do longer periods of time in Jesus's. You know, that's 4.5 Jesuses ago they were making bread. Ancient Egypt was doing some sort of, they had artistic depictions already of making bread at 10,000 years ago, which is 5 Jesuses. Just in case you're keeping track.
What kind of breads would they make, though?
They're making flatbread. They're like unleavened breads.
And that's it? Like flatbread? They didn't have
Well, we don't know. I mean, that's a long time for like yeasty stuff. Now we do happen to know, and this is a side quest. Slight goat noise. Okay, is that we do know that they were brewing beer from wheat and barley that long ago, and that their medicus back then had beer that had tetracycline in it. And we know that's why so many people survived their major surgeries back then.
That's interesting.
Is that you would go to the medicus and they'd have, depending on how.
So all the alcoholics survive.
Well, the beer back then is not as strong as the beer today.
Okay.
They basically fermented everything just to have enough alcohol in it to kill off all of the unwanted stuff like Gerardia. You know, just enough to kill off the bad stuff in the. So what do you? I mean that was through most of human history, all the way up to where they're on boats.
I always felt like it'd be the opposite. Like it'd be like way strong.
No.
Back then.
They had too much shit to do. Like they would. They had very weak beers, 1 to 2% alcohol, and it was just enough to sterilize the water that they were using because you just didn't want to drink the Nile water back then. I mean, not only did you have hippos and crocodiles, but everybody was pooping in it. And then they were
Yeah.
floating dead bodies and stuff in
Yeah.
it too. So we definitely wanted to brew that beer up and just kind of, sterilize it. So they had different types of beer that had different healing properties. So you would go to the medicus and he would, jab a hole in your head, do some eye surgery, do some surgery on your bones, heck, remove a finger, whatever. And then he'd send you to basically the brewery, right? And he'd write you a prescription. Hey, you need beer number 2785, whatever, right? It'd probably be skunky, weird beer that makes you not die, right? And so they'd go and they'd get basically a prescription for tetracycline. There was so much tetracycline in it that it's measurable in the bones of people who have taken it.
Oh, wow.
So it's almost they'd get like their 100 ml cups would have almost 100 milligrams of tetracycline in them, which was really, really, really freaking cool. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, right? It's a class of antibiotics. Yeah.
Sweet.
And then they had some that had penicillin. They had some that had different things in them. They brewed some that had narcotics, so that you would go and get your basically heroin beer for your headache, or laudanum, or they had a whole bunch of different stuff in their beers. The brewery guy wasn't just the guy that gets you drunk. He was also like the pharmacy. Pretty cool.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
Right?
pretty cool.
So much science. All right, so we're at ungoat sound. Goat sound in reverse. How do you how do you reverse that? I don't know. Okay, we're back on it. So yeah, we've got now there was a lot of Neolithic times. They would do bread cones. And these are conical loaves of bread they'd use as grave goods, and it looks like they just basically molded it with their hands and then put it next to a fire to bake. And then they would leave those cones of bread as baked goods, and that would happen 5th century, so about 2.25 Jesuses ago.
You said these were like charred breads, right? I can't imagine that they're tasty.
No, but they're calorie dense, and these were more of those ones were more of a just an offering. Those weren't to munch on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the breads that you would be the furthest you could probably go back and find bread that you would recognize is going to be in the Greek era. All right, like if you were to go back, you'd go to a Greek bakery and you would find leavened breads, you'd find yeast breads, you'd find sourdough breads, you'd find something that looks like a tortillas, you'd find all sorts of different things. Because they really did travel around and learn how to cook and bring that technology back with them. The Greek were also the people that invented freestanding ovens that had a door, and they would something.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what type of ovens did they use?
Kind of like pizza ovens type things.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but you would recognize it like, oh, hey, that's a bread oven.
Sweet.
You'd be like, oh, hey, they're making bread in there. But yeah, so
I want a pizza oven so bad.
Oh, don't get me started. It's gonna happen, sweetie. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
A big one. You can put like a whole pig in there. You seen when they roast a pig in the oven like that?
Nuh-uh.
That's so good. All right. Anyway, so that's kind of like the history of bread. Then from there, it goes to the Middle Ages, where it kind of takes a couple steps back.
How can you go back from that?
Because
it's already like charred little discs.
No, it wasn't back then. Not in the Greek era.
Oh, in the Greek era. Okay.
Yeah. Now
so why did we go back in the Middle Ages?
Because everybody went back. It was just a bunch of. That's what happens when you have Europe. I mean, look at Europe now. Sorry. We love you, Europe, listeners.
Europe, we love you.
Our listeners are not the average Europeans. They're smart people. Anyway, yeah, there was, massive earth cooling, mini ice age, a bunch of smart people died, the dumb people lived, and you ended up with everybody taking a step back and thinking they needed to bathe once a year, or the germs were going to, in the clean water, the germs were going to kill them. Whatever, people were stupid. So they took a kind of a step back in bread technology back then. They did a lot of trencher-style breads where they're just literally making a line in the ash and throwing paste into it and letting it just...
No!
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
It's not good. Um, you'd get everything was like your food was served on a piece of flatbread. It was like 6 inches by 4 inches.
Like a tortilla. So
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
It's not like a tortilla. It was like an inch thick, and it was hard as a freaking rock.
Oh,
There was
not
disposable
cool.
plates that absorbed the liquids and stuff that
Oh,
came off of
okay.
the stuff, and he would take that stupid plate then and chuck it to the pigs, and the pigs would eat it, right? But yeah, it just I don't know. I feel like they kind of went backwards, and then in the 19th century, Renaissance era,
An
everything.
anti-corn law. What the hell?
It's the Anti-Corn Law League. They wanted cheap bread because they were putting into a tax on corn. Corn wasn't really popularly grown in Europe at the time. They didn't really because remember they're just recovering from what was basically a mini ice age that happened during the Middle Ages, and that's why it like made everything super cold. So corn didn't really grow very well back then, so they were importing it.
Seems like they don't have the best soil then.
They do have great soil. That's why they could grow so. That's why they had so many people. But they couldn't. There's just stuff they couldn't grow at the time. So they had huge like corn taxes and whatnot. Well, that stuff really kind of didn't get abolished until like 1846. So it really did stick around for a long time, from like the 14th century into the
Wow.
18th and 19th century. So
I don't get it for that long. I mean, people
these are
really-
savages. There's a reason we left
Yeah.
as Americans. There's a reason we left back in 1492. All right, we left.
When Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah, we left. He was like, "I want to go somewhere where they have real bread and they're not." and so he's like, "That
I'm
way."
tired of this plate. Ah.
Yeah, he throws it across the room
Yeah.
and it shatters a brick. So, yeah, so they came up with 18th century. There was a bread sold in England was often adulterated with chalk, sawdust, plaster, clay, ammonium carbonate.
Would you like this cement?
Yeah.
Cement for sale? What the hell?
So,
That's terrible. I could like literally build a house with that.
Probably, yeah. It would probably be about as stable as Adobe. So Frederick Acombe was the first person to raise alarm about food alterations in 1820. In 1837, American health reformer Sylvester Graham, like literally the Graham Company, published a treatise on bread and bread making, which described how to use unrefined wheat flour to make graham bread at home, in response to adulterated bread sold in public bakehouses.
It sounds so dirty. Like adulterated bread sold in bakehouses. Right? Like it sounds like so like I mean we just
Well, I mean the way you said it, now it
well,
does
look
sound
at
dirty.
it does.
It didn't sound dirty when I said
It
it.
sounds terrible.
Now when you say it like that, it does sound like prostitute bread.
Yeah. That's exactly what it like I don't know, like it's a special house with a red light special that gives you adulterated bread. I don't know.
So it wasn't until 1899 that Food Adulteration Acts in Britain came about. And then it was a little while later in the United States before people stopped adding weird stuff to bread. So for some reason, that weird stuff really didn't happen until like the 1904 and 1905 area. So bread has a pretty fascinating history. It was screwed up, then it got really cool in the Greek era, then it took a step back and became like hockey pucks, and then people started adding rat poison and shit to it.
What the
Like, just like weird stuff, right? Like, I use cement to kill rats. And then, like, whatever, right?
terrible.
It's just. Bread
and
is a
then fast
fascinating
forward
history.
to 1904, did they improve that?
Yeah, they
Because
passed laws saying, hey, you can't add sawdust and stuff to your publicly
I'm
for sale
built like
bread.
I need good bread, okay?
Yeah.
Like I do not I like good bread. Look at me. I'm a snack.
So the first introduction of sliced bread was 1912. The first machine that sliced it, wrapped it, 1928. Wow, that wasn't that long ago.
1928.
Yeah.
Sliced bread.
The U.S. government mandated since 1940-41 the fortification of white flour-based foods with nutritional loss millings like thiamine, riboflavin, niacin and iron, which is good. Just because there was a bunch of nutritional deficits.
When did you
Seen
say that the first sliced bread was made?
1912.
In 1920 is your first sandwich.
Oh man, how did you women folk get so good at making sandwiches if they've been around very long?
Cause haven't you ever noticed that your sandwich is better if somebody else is making it? Like my sister would be making a sandwich and I'm like, let me bite your sandwich. And she's like, no. And I'm like, let me have a bite of your sandwich. And I'm like, and then I would have a bite of her sandwich. And then I was like, make me one. Because mine just wouldn't come out as good as hers. But then the same thing with you. Like I can make you a killer sandwich and you love it. And then I'm like, you make me a sandwich. It's really weird. It's the art of sandwichery.
So there's got to be a law, the inverse law of sandwich making.
I don't know what it is, but that's crazy.
The foreign sandwich is
1920
always better
for sandwich.
than the sandwich in hand. The inverse law of sandwich making. So to do.
What kind of sandwich was it? Was it bologna? Sorry, I'm getting off topic here, but I gotta know. I must know.
It was.
It was bologna sandwich.
Really?
Wow.
Was it?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
moving on.
Yeah, there was like, and then things kind of sped up from there, and we kind of get to where we're at now. Not a lot has changed since the '80s in bread making, and I mean, I'm sorry to have to say that because that was not that long ago. Like that was. Okay, calcium wasn't even added in UK bread until like the 60s and 70s. All right? And they were having people have rickets like up until then because they were eating a lot of bread but they weren't getting enough calcium and stuff. It's just it hurts my brain to talk. I'm done. Can't talk about the history of bread anymore. So, let's talk about some types of bread.
Yeah, what's your favorite?
We kind of mentioned a couple of types of bread there while we were at it. We've got flatbreads. Those are going to be your unleavened breads. Those are going to be like your tortillas. Those are, well, there's a whole bunch of those.
Like the pitas and...
Yeah, but pitas they have leavening in them. I'm talking about, have you seen those, the what's that bread we like to eat? Oh, the tandoori bread? Or what's it called?
What we ordered from the Indian restaurant?
Yeah.
Naan.
Naan is going to be like an unleavened bread. Stuff like that. It's literally just paste, spices and stuff like that. It's spread out thin, rolled thin, and then cooked by stopping it on a pillow and then reaching down inside of an oven and slapping the oven against the inside of the oven. And the inside of the oven heats it up real quick. It cooks real fast. It peels off onto a plate, and you're good to go. So you got flatbreads. You got crackers, which I went through a period of time where I wanted to make crackers, and I realized that crackers are not made from a dough. Crackers are made from a like a really thin dough, kind of like a pancake mix. Because it was a total failure. All right, I thought, oh man, I could make soda crackers, right? And like soda crack, like the saltines. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, this is gonna be super easy. So I tried making like a really light. Well, first off, I read absolutely nothing about them.
That's your problem.
Yeah, I was like, I can do this, and so I rolled out I made like a really light and airy type of like a dough you would make for scones and stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, like a really light and airy dough, but I didn't add very much sugar to it. And then I tried rolling it as thin as I could, and then cut it into little pieces, and it just kind of curled up and looked like crap in the oven. I mean, it tasted great. Didn't taste anywhere like a cracker. So what I think it is, I think it's more like a liquid that they pour out onto trays and then flash cook it. You know?
That hurts my brain. I don't know. How do you flash cook that? Like a liquid?
Well, easily. You just roll it through an oven that's super hot. Yeah. Super hot. So anyway, crackers. Then you've got quick breads, which are like your biscuits, your muffins, your scones, anything like that.
I suck at making biscuits.
Would you like to tell your biscuit story?
I am the worst at making biscuits.
I don't understand how, because we make biscuits in this house all the time. I'll be happy to
You make biscuits in this house all the time, and his biscuits are amazing. And so I tried. One day I was like, I'm going to learn how to make biscuits. For 3 days in a row, I made the most terrible biscuits. And I swear, my husband ate them with a smile. Like he was so trying to be so nice. And
I was trying
like,
to be supportive.
This tastes like shit. What did I do?
The first one,
I was so mad.
You doubled the amount of baking soda.
And that did not go well.
And so it was like, it had this weird effect of, at the same time, drying your mouth out and numbing it. And, like, it was just a lot. It's like eating every one of them was eating like eating a half a teaspoon of
cement,
baking soda,
or baking
just
soda.
Like swishing it around your mouth for a minute. It was pretty intense. The second time, I think you were really
way
hesitant.
Too much salt.
Yeah, you were hesitant to add baking powder and baking soda, but you added way too much salt.
I mean, unedible.
Oh.
Unedible.
Well, I threw them outside to the birds eventually, and the damn chickens
I don't think
wouldn't
they wanted to eat them.
No.
It was so bad.
They
won't do it
stayed
again.
there in the rain until
Maybe I'll practice
just
again.
disappeared.
I don't know. I'll have to give it a try again.
Yeah, so and biscuits are really, really simple. If y'all want to write down a biscuit recipe, I'll be happy to give you one real quick. Most of my recipes generally have pretty bad names, but I come up with a bunch of them all the time. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a bunch of our bread recipes, which we have that are our own recipes that we do just in this house, that we've came up with over time, into a downloadable online book, and cookbook. We'll charge like, I don't know, $5 for it or something like that, and it'll have a whole bunch of recipes in there from us. So this is going to be my biscuits as blank recipe.
Biscuits AF.
Yeah, basically that's pretty much what it says. So it's 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon sugar, 1 tablespoon baking powder, 1 teaspoon salt, 8 tablespoons of butter cubed, and 3/4 cups of milk, more or less.
Salted or unsalted butter?
Just butter. Just don't overthink this.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I always ask because sometimes I had a too much salt issue in my bread.
That's
so
because you didn't measure.
I measured with my heart, and my
Yeah,
heart was
your
wrong.
heart was salty.
It
Your
was
heart
salty.
was salty.
It was.
So you're gonna preheat your oven to 360 degrees freedom. That's 360 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know Celsius, so we're gonna go 360 degrees freedom. In a large bowl, you're gonna combine your flour, your sugar, just all the dry stuff, and then y'all should have either 2 knives, like just 2 butter knives, or a pasta knife, or pastry knife, right? I have a pastry knife. Pastry knives are like a whole bunch of little slotted knives next to each other, and you just like jab it in there. So you just take all of your
jab, like when you shank, when you get shanked, jab.
Okay, so you'd have you take your pastry knife and just chop up your butter into it. And you work it until it's smaller than, until it basically disappears and becomes like a uniform crumbly mixture. You can do that with 2 knives by kind of crossing them and just chick. It takes forever. You can squish it up with a fork, however you want to incorporate your butter into your dry ingredients until the butter disappears. It may be like tiny bits you can see, but other than that, it's just completely disappeared. Then you're going to add your milk until you come to a nice stiff dough. You're not going to roll this dough. You're not going to mess it up. You can either roll it once out flat to cut it. If you want fancy looking biscuits, what I normally do is I take a bit of it out in my hand and I roll it out and then just kind of squish it between my 2 palms and then put it on. And I've gotten really good at making them pretty circular that way. And then put it on, just drop them onto a well-greased sheet and then into the oven for 360 degrees until they're done. And people go, well, what's that? I'm like, it doesn't take long, like 10 minutes, if that. Just, you look in there and they'll be perfectly white. And you pick up the bottom with like a fork or your finger, and the bottom's just starting to turn golden brown. Cut off, take them out, put them onto a cooling rack, or just remove them from the heat, and you're good to go. And those are biscuits. I have made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. I used to make huge batches that we'd go and we'd take and feed the homeless people because it's so fast and easy to make these biscuits that we'd do like 210 biscuits at a time. And we'd go and we'd give them away to the shelter, and they really, really appreciated with that. So we'll give you other recipes there as we go in our cookbook. So we might like reference something, but you'll be able to have access to it here shortly. So we're gonna get into some yeast type breads. I have.
Can I tell you what my favorite bread is that you make?
Which one?
The farmhouse bread.
The farmhouse bread. That's a
Farmhouse
yeast bread.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
The farmhouse bread. I call it the farmhouse bread. I don't think it exists anywhere else. I came up with it. I let the alcohol talk to me one day, and came up with this bread. And it is more like a really runny dough than it is a bread, but it's yeast bread, and it like comes out absolutely perfect every
Cold
single
winter
time.
nights, warm bread out of the oven with some butter. Oh man, it was amazing. I'm so spoiled.
Yeah, it's super super easy to do. I was looking for my chingazo about it.
You are not sharing that recipe, sir.
Why didn't I share this one?
Because we shared our other one. So
The biscuits.
yeah, visit our book so
Oh,
you can get our farmhouse bread.
Yeah, but anyway, now people might get upset about my measurements in the farmhouse bread, but understand that when I came up with it years ago, I was under the influence of whiskey, and so it's ish. A lot of the stuff is ish, but it's really, really, really hard to mess up. Like it's such a forgiving bread.
Yeah, see, I'm good at farmhouse bread. I'm good at all the other breads, but biscuits kick my ass. I don't know why. I don't know why.
They're so simple.
Don't know why.
They're so easy.
It's the baking soda. I always get it wrong.
So, yeah. It's really, really easy. Well, the farmhouse bread...
And it sells really well. So for anybody that wants to bake bread, sell some baked goods, farmhouse bread sold really well.
Oh, farmhouse bread, because it comes out so perfect every time. Like, you can't... to over-bake it, you would have to just forget about it and walk away for, like, a long, long time. Because it's just such a forgiving bread. It always comes out exactly perfect. New people, when I teach bread classes, I teach with the farmhouse bread because it's
perfect.
It's so there's so much margin for error.
Yeah, and the loaves look so pretty.
Oh, they come out beautiful and domed and perfect every single time.
So baked goods were a big selling or a big item that sold a lot.
Oh yeah.
So on top of us like harvesting our fruits and veggies and all that and processing it and making jams, jellies, and everything that we're going to make for the farmer's market, along with soap and everything else, there we were baking as well, so we would have
to be fair, to make a 5-gallon batch,
yeah,
like
it was
a bucket
easy
of the dough,
yeah,
for the farmhouse bread was like just it's a scoop, some of this, some of that,
yeah.
Just go.
My husband does not make anything, he's always making cooking everything in mass quantities. And we always share and like invite friends over for dinner and things like that.
We just made kimchi, and I just made like 5 gallons.
Yeah,
of
we
kimchi.
just made kimchi, and now I have kimchi out of my ears. But I have my friends that are going to come over and pick up some kimchi.
It'll all be gone this week.
It's all cool. But yeah, so farmhouse bread sold really well. It looked pretty, and we would wrap it and all that, and then what also sold really well were our baguettes. Our baguettes, because we would make a fresh pesto. And so we had people that would come pick up their baguette in like a French, what was that paper? The butcher paper that we'd put it in? Just butcher paper. We would wrap it all cool.
Because it was cheap.
Yeah, it was cheap. So we would wrap it all cool. We'd give them, they'd purchase a jar of pesto. And then they would dip it. And it was like the most delicious thing ever. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So those are my two favorites.
So baguettes are really, really simple.
Yeah.
You're going to make a simple, like plain white bread type recipe, and then you're going to take and roll it out thin and leave it alone and let it rise, and then punch it back down and roll it again, and then the part that was up is now going to be facing down, and then make little cuts across the top of it, let it rise again, and then pop it into a cold oven and turn to 350. And what that'll do is it'll cause it to get real nice and airy on the inside, because it'll rise super, super quick while it's getting hot. And by the time it's hot enough to start baking it and the yeast to start dying, you get that nice crust on the outside.
We would sell out every time. So baked goods for farmers markets are a very good idea if you're thinking about it, or if you're on the fence about it.
They're very simple to make.
Yeah, if you're pondering making baked goods, this is your sign. Do it. You
Yeah.
won't be disappointed with the results. You'll sell out all the
So
time. Zucchini bread did really well too.
yeah, well, that's not a simple. I'll put my zucchini bread AF
Oh man,
recipe
that
in
was
the book.
amazing stuff.
It
Yeah.
is not. It's a little bit more involved. It's probably the best zucchini bread recipe ever. And I mean, I'm not being shy about
Agreed.
that because
No,
I've
agreed.
tried
I mean, we
a
had
bunch of
zucchinis
them.
coming out of our ears. So we had to get really creative, and my husband's just very gifted at cooking and making all sorts of deliciousness. And so we one year I was like, oh, my first year on the farm we had an abundance of zucchini, so I was like, well, let's try zucchini bread, and we did, and it was amazing, amazing. And people were like, do you have any more zucchini bread? And
We made so
we
much.
made so much because we had so many. We had our zucchini in the field, right? That was a field
Yeah,
crop
that was a field
in a
crop.
row.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
so there was a lot of zucchini. So
If you're thinking out there of planting like 100 zucchini plants, just don't. You don't hate yourself that much.
it
All
was so
right?
bad. I mean, we couldn't give away zucchini anymore.
Oh, dude, the food, the people at the food, the homeless shelter and stuff like that, the food bank would see us and lock the damn door because
They're
they were
like,
like, nope, I know they're coming over here with that whole truck full of zucchini and squash. No, no, no. Because, we were selling it and we were practically giving it away. Like, hey, take 3 for $1.
I like squash though, So,
Yeah, but not when it's in such an abundance.
yeah, I couldn't even. I mean, everyday squash, like I don't know.
What else did we make that was fun? The squash relish. Squash relish was really good.
Yeah, but we're talking about breads. What other breads did we make that were fun? I mean, we've made all kinds
banana
of stuff.
bread.
Banana bread,
Banana
pretzels,
bread. Well, pretzels are really, really easy. Pretzels and bagels are made almost exactly the same way.
donuts. Yeah.
So if we're gonna talk about pretzels and bagels, it's a stiff dough, and then you boil a bunch of water. And you bring a heavily salted water to a boil, and you throw it in there for about 30 seconds on each side. And you take it out, and that gives it this chewy texture. And then you bake it, and that's how you make your. That's how they get their chewiness.
That's donuts too.
No,
I see you boil them, right?
no, you see me boil.
Bagels.
Bagels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
bagels
sorry.
and pretzels are made
Yeah,
the
I got
same way.
confused. So yeah, bagels.
So to make a sourdough is just now you need to make a sourdough starter. And
That's the challenge right there. I think that's a little complex.
Nah, it's just now on its basic level, it is you take a cup, a container, a bowl. You put a couple of tablespoons of flour, a little bit of water, and just a touch of sugar in there, and you set it out somewhere until it starts bubbling. You're gonna capture wild yeast that are in the air all the time. There's yeast around you everywhere, but it's a wild yeast. You don't know what kind you're gonna get. So you're gonna also pick up your lactobacillus, which is gonna give it the souriness, and some of the malolactic fermentation bacteria as well. So it's kind of a crapshoot of where it's going to be good or not. I mean, I have that one that's in the fridge. Once you have one, they're good forever, practically. Now, a lot of places have caught on and started selling the starters, where you can buy them either as a liquid or as a powdered starter. We've seen Red Star Yeast has their sourdough starter in a package.
Yeah.
And it's worth it. I think it's great. It works really well. Fleshman's Yeast also has one.
I like Fleshman's.
I like the Red Star's sourdough starter. It has like 4 different bacteria, 2 different types of yeast in it, and it's a really good starter. The best sourdough starter I ever had in my entire life, I got from a cherry tomato.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what would happen is when we talked about our seed saving episode, where you go and you like blend up the tomato in a little bit of water with a little sugar and let it ferment, right? To save the seeds, and that fermentation process will clean the seed coat off of the seeds, and the bad seeds will float and the good seeds sink. Well, I did that with the cherry tomatoes. I had some cherry tomatoes that had been on the vine for too long, and they were all kind of like crinkly skinned, like they were old. Well, I just took them and put them and just mashed them up with like a fork with a little bit of water because they were super, super sweet. I think I added like maybe a quarter of a teaspoon, just a pinch of sugar, and like a cup of water and like 4 or 5 tomatoes. And I put a glove over the top, and after a couple of days, it fermented like crazy, like fast. And I was like, wow, there's got to be some really killer yeast in there. And I smelled it, and it smelled sweet and amazing. I was like, holy crap, you could pretty much drink that. And so I poured off the liquid, poured it through a strainer, and I just added some flour to it. And it came out to be one of my favorite sourdough starters I had my entire life. Like, I kept that thing alive for a long time. And I've been meaning to make another one from a cherry tomato or another tomato. So if you have any old tomatoes that have been on your vine for a long time, you can ferment them a little bit and turn them into a sourdough starter. It'll be amazing. Amazing sourdough starter. It was the fruitiest. Like, it would add notes of fruit and like apricot and stuff like that to the bread. It was really, really good.
Hey. Oh.
So, it was one of my, like, super. Overall, it's a really good way to get you a wild yeast, to capture wild yeast. So, and as far as sourdoughs go, you're going to cook it on pretty much the exact same way you would anything else. For yeast and buying yeast and storing yeast, there's a big thing about, you should buy your yeast and keep it in the freezer. Not the biggest fan of that. If you're gonna buy bulk yeast, I'm talking like those big 1 pound blocks or whatever. I just say to keep them in a dry container out of the light and at a reasonable temperature, and they're gonna last for a long time. It's freeze dried, so as long as it doesn't get like super wet or anything, it's gonna last forever and ever. They last a long time. I'm not a big fan of putting anything that might be alive and you want it to keep alive in the freezer. You know?
I'm laughing because remember the time that I opened every package of Fleischmann's and I put it in a jar and you were like, why? You were so mad at me. I don't know. I thought it would look cute in our baker's rack and I was like, oh man, I screwed up.
I had all these blocks of the yeast stored because, you know, what's in that little 1 pound vacuum sealed foil pouch, like it'll last for, I mean, the expiration date's on them like 5 or 6 years.
Nope, not in our household.
Not in our household. And they just all needed to be in a Tupperware container on the counter.
That was cute that I got from IKEA.
It was cute. Yeah, now they're only like 6 or 8 months.
Yeah, I expedited their usage.
Now,
I'm
there's
like,
no
let's
way
use
I'm going to use 5 pounds of yeast in 6 months.
I screwed up so bad. I felt so bad about that.
Well, at least it wasn't during Rona when you couldn't find yeast.
Or like, yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah.
Remember that? We could not find yeast anywhere. It was so hard to find. We had to order it.
Well, yeah, but it was like, it's not hard to make yeast, you know?
Yeah, we've always just had it, so we weren't like in a dire need of it. But it was kind of obviously scary. It made us feel a little, like, insecure, of course, because
most of our
yeast
stuff is in storage still.
Yeah.
Because we never moved out. When we moved into this house, we didn't bring everything. We left an entire storage facility.
Because remember, guys, we're like in limbo right now, and it sucks. But,
waiting for them to finish building the house.
Counting down, and that's the only thing when you're buying like land in a house and the building process and having to wait and like be in the in between.
Because you're like already ready. You're so ready. My own kitchen to my specs. And you're like, I want to have the land that can go out and chop stuff and build things. Ugh, man. Yeah. You got that primal urge to go and pee on your own trees. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that urge, but okay. I mean, I'm down with everything else except peeing on trees.
Yeah, you gotta go mark your territory. Establish dominance.
Okay, I'll leave that to you.
When we were out there looking at the land again yesterday, all of the little tunas are ready.
We have a lot of cactus, unfortunately, so we're gonna have to do a lot of clearing. But on a positive note, the tunas were ready. They were a dark purple, at the top. So we're looking forward to making some wine.
And we'll bring you guys along.
It's our land, so we can pick them if we want to.
Yeah. And we'll bring you guys along on that journey about how we process them and how we make wine out of them, because it's really not that difficult. It's a pretty straightforward process. You just kind of burn off all the little. Well, you pick them with what stopped us yesterday is that only thing I had with us was like a couple of pair of like cheap latex gloves from work.
Yeah.
And a garbage bag. And I was like, I'll just pick a bunch of them The spines went right through the latex gloves.
I told you they would, and you did not listen to me.
So, barbecue tongs are the way to go to pick those.
Barbecue tongs, and then you burn them off. You like roast them, basically.
It works out really well. You just hit them real quick
with the needles. Or the little blowtorch.
Yeah, just hit them real quick with a little blowtorch on all the different sides. I put them on like in a piece of expanded metal or a piece of a grill grating, and just do like a few handfuls at a time to make sure you get all of them done. But it sounds like it's a long process. It's not. The spines just immediately evaporate when they hit a flame. They just go away, and that just makes sure that you're not feeding your family and friends jelly and wine that will kill them.
Yeah.
Accidentally spikes.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Not fun.
Not fun.
But it's totally worth it because it's a really good source of free fruit. It's delicious. It's really quite good.
We also had mesquite beans on our tree, so that's pretty cool.
Mesquite bean jelly.
We love mesquite bean jelly.
Oh, the Native Americans used to make bread out of the mesquite beans.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you can substitute up to 30% of your flour in any recipe with ground mesquite bean flour.
Interesting.
It's the whole pod. There's the pod, the bean, and everything.
I'm gonna need one of those molcajetes.
Why? We have a flour mill.
Oh, well, okay, we'll do flour mill.
Yeah, that's gonna take you. All right, you don't want to go. You want to play. You want to play. I'm a native. Go for it. There was a reason that their lives suck.
Hey, I want one anyway, just to like do my spices, grind my spices and everything.
We have a
no, I don't have like an official lava rock and like all that setup. The one straight up from Mexico. That's what I want.
Okay, that'll work. I'm gonna use my my grain grinder because that's gonna be a lot faster. We'll see who wins.
It's not about being fast, honey. It's the art.
What I'm gonna want to make a bunch
Who's gonna
of
have
bread
cooler
to
pictures?
sell.
Me. Yeah, you look at me because you know I'm right.
Well, your pictures will be cooler, but my product will be superior.
Right in the heart.
In the heart. So what do we got for news? I know it's going to be mostly doom and gloomy.
Unfortunately, there are some things that are concerning. You know, you have like...
What?
I'm sorry, I'm being distracted by my 4-year-old. But we have a couple of things that are concerning, you know, like, so Georgia is experiencing a failure of crops for their peaches. And not only peaches are probably not the most fragile fruit to grow, but they're definitely up there in fragility. But you also have apples and other crops that are being affected. And we have El Nino to thank for that because he's disrupting all our weather and changing, you know, types of weather. So they're historically, like, they've always had a really cold, you know, what was it called? Hours. They have so peaches need a certain amount of chill hours, so freeze hours to set fruit, and then it'll warm up, and then they bloom and blossom and all that good stuff, right? But what happened? Yeah, of course. But what happened is that they had a out of normal warm February, so like historically like a record warm February, and then they had a historic record freeze in March.
Which caused all the blossoms.
Yeah, it caused it all to go out. So I mean, they typically have about 80 migrant workers in this one particular farm, but they're at 30 migrant workers because there's no work, there's no peaches, and so that just affects a lot of things, you know. And what's really interesting is that because peach is considered not like a main crop, the insurance that these farmers get, I mean, they even went to go lobby this insurance because it doesn't cover peaches. It only covers major crops like corn and beans and things like that. And so they had to go lobby so that, you know, the insurance can cover them. And, you know, they just lobbied this year about it, and now they have a peach failure, and there's nothing they're getting very, very little help. Those farmers out there are getting very little help.
Well, I have to admit, I haven't seen the peaches on the side of the road that usually are around here.
Yeah. Oh, exactly, right?
Yeah.
There's a time of year where you see everybody selling peaches. Mm-hmm. They sell the Fredericksburg peaches, and I have not seen peaches.
I haven't seen them at all this year.
That's crazy.
And I was up in Fredericksburg the other day, and I didn't see, like, Das Peach House and all those ones.
Yeah.
Right now. They didn't have anything out.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't even notice that until you brought it up, but you were absolutely right. And just pro tip, the way to tell whether or not a peach is ready is if you see it red on three sides. Once it's red on three sides, then it's ready for picking. But if it's not, or if you leave it any longer than that, then it's gonna go soft. So you don't want to do that. But yeah, it's just a bummer to hear about these farmers and how they're struggling right now. And there's no insurance to help them, and it's affecting everything. Migrant workers, them making money, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, just I don't know. It's concerning. I want to know about the sriracha shortage that you were talking about.
Other shortage news, we have the sriracha shortage, and it's caused by the same drought that hit the Georgia and everywhere else, has caused a complete failure of the jalapeno pepper crops in Mexico. That's what they're made. What sriracha is made from is red jalapenos. So, and that takes a long time to go from a regular green jalapeno to grow up and become a red jalapeno and get the sweetness that you want in it out of it. And so now they're like talking about sriracha peppers are going, sriracha's going for like $120 a bottle. I'm like, wow, I make a lot of hot sauce. And I mean, I will happily sell anybody out there listening a quart jar of my hot sauce for $120.
But you don't understand. Sriracha is like sriracha.
Mine's really close. Really close. I mean, I'll even sign the jar if you want to spend $120 on it.
I thought I saw some sriracha at the grocery store, but everybody's like, that's not the real sriracha. So.
Well, there's that. I think HEB makes their own now.
Oh,
there's like a knockoff brand. When we were at the Asian grocery store, I didn't notice any sriracha. There was some Filipino version, but it had like a lot of fish sauce in it, and I was like, I mean, if I wanted to add fish sauce to my sriracha, I would add fish sauce to my sriracha, right?
Put some fish sauce in my sriracha, baby.
I don't think that's a song.
It's going to be now.
So if we're going to talk about the...
Ooh, that looks delicious.
The tree of the day is going to be the Dancy Tangerine. It's kind of a newish tree that's been recently coming out. You can pretty much grow it anywhere in the United States, from zone 2 to 11. But that's if you're going to grow it in a pot and bring it in and out, right? So it says the Dancy Tangerine tree, a heavy producer of tangy tangerines. The Dancy Tangerine tree, also known as the Dancy or Dancy Mandarin, is a compact evergreen citrus tree. It's a popular cultivar with prize for its juicy, sweet fruit. It has a thin, easy peel rind and compact size. Dancy Tangerine is believed to be the result of a crossing two mandarins, each with some amount of pomelo in their DNA. The Dancy Tangerine is well adapted to warm subtropical climates and can be grown just about anywhere when kept as a patio plant. The tree typically grows a height of 10 to 12 feet with a round or oval-shaped canopy. The leaves of Dancy Tangerine they're glossy, the dark green, oval shape. The tree blooms in late winter or early spring, making large flushes of white, fragrant flowers. Dancy Tangerine is a small to medium-sized, round or slightly oblate. It has a thin, smooth rind that is bright orange in color. The Dancy Tangerines are spicy with a lower level of acidity than oranges with a sweeter flavor that's not too sour or bitter. The fruit easily splits into segments, make it great for snacking. Other than that, you can pretty much just grow it anywhere. It's cold hardy down to 32 degrees, so you can bring it right inside when it starts getting super cold outside. It's really, really neat. When you buy them, they're kind of small trees, so it takes them 2 or so years for them to fruit. So, super fun, super awesome about that. What else we got? We're going to do the plant of the day, too.
Ooh, this is my favorite.
The plant of the day is going to be rosemary. Rosemary, now, something you might not know is rosemary's in the mint family. I didn't know that. I thought it was like in an evergreen family. Because when you start,
I would guess the evergreen.
Yeah, when you start whacking on it, it smells like a pine tree, you know.
And it looks kind of like a pine tree, like
right?
Pine needles. It's interesting.
Here, it just grows like a weed.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
it grows like a. People use it in landscaping or hedges around here. Like you could trim it with a hedge trimmer. Just like
Yeah.
it grows like insane around here.
Like, don't bother buying rosemary at the grocery store. Just
Go
look
get
in your
some from your
yard.
neighbors.
Yeah, or your neighbor's yard.
Rosemary is native to the dry, rocky areas of the Mediterranean, especially along the coast. The name Rosemarius derives from the Latin word "who cares," which together translates to "dew of the sea." Rosemary.
Did you say dude of the sea?
Dew of the sea.
Oh, I thought dude of the sea. I'm like, wow, who's that?
So, rosemary has been used since the time of the early Greeks and Romans. Greek scholars often wore a garland of herb around their heads to help them with the memory during exams. That's why you'd see that garland around people's heads. That was actually supposed to be like rosemary.
What did it do again?
Memory. It was supposed to help them with the memory.
Oh, really?
So, like, like, let's see the little gold crowns
of course,
and stuff?
Yeah.
The gold crowns depict having a crown of rosemary around your head.
From memory, wow.
To help you with your memory. So, in the 9th century, Charlemagne insisted herb be grown in the royal gardens. The Eau de Cologne, that Napoleon...
Eau de Cologne, that's like smell of cologne or perfume. Or
yeah,
whatever.
pretty much.
Okay.
The Napoleon Bonaparte used was made of rosemary. It's because he smelled, he rode elephants, and well, he was not the elephant person. Was Napoleon the elephant person? Did he take him and he attacked the French little dude? Somebody.
He was the little dude.
Yeah. I know, but did he also have elephants?
I don't know.
I don't remember. It's been a minute. But I know he was like a small little angry guy. And he was French, so they smelled already. So, like, just smelling like shame, like rosemary's probably a step up. The herb was also subject of many poems and mentioned in 5 Shakespeare's plays. Myths and folklore about it is a sprig of rosemary was placed in the hands of the deceased at a funeral as a symbol of remembrance. Brides often wore rosemary at their weddings because it was also a symbol of happiness, loyalty, and love. Legend have it that rosemary originally had white flowers. They changed to blue when the Virgin Mary placed her cloak upon it while resting during her flight to Egypt.
Interesting. I want to make I make flower crowns, off of, all types of different flowers, but I've never made a rosemary crown. And now you're saying that it helps with memory. So I'm going to make one for my sister.
So it's really, really easy to grow. It comes back pretty much every time. You can't murder it real well. I think the only time I've ever seen it get really murdered was a hard freeze. It doesn't seem to come back from a real hard freeze. And it doesn't
we did have that one hard freeze, and it really affected our rosemary. I remember that.
And it doesn't like to be overwatered. It gets root rot if you're not real careful. So if you're going to plant it somewhere outside, add some amendments like sand and gravel to the soil, because it definitely enjoys that. Pruning it makes it happier and grow more. You can grow it inside if you want, but your whole house will smell like rosemary. Rosemary salt has always been a big seller for a lot of people. Like,
we use it in our spice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we make spices too, guys. Visit our Etsy and you'll be able to order some spices. But rosemary is a big component of our recipe.
But people would just make rosemary salt, or like garlic rosemary salt.
Interesting.
Well, they just take garlic powder, kosher salt, and rosemary, and grind it up together, and then sell that to people in little shakers. And it was always a good seller at the farmers markets. People enjoyed it. It smells good. It tastes good. You can use it on pretty much everything. So, crafters use rosemary to make wreaths and garlands. So I guess I've used rosemary to make soap. Yeah, it makes great soap. You harvest rosemary by just chopping pieces off of it, and then stripping all the little fine leaves off of it. It's pretty straightforward. It's not super difficult. Rosemary is cool. Rosemary is all. Rosemary is life. What else you got?
That's all I got today, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm out of gas now. I'm tired. It's been a long week. It's been a long, great week, but long.
It's been a good week.
It's been
hot.
Oh, jeez.
Man, it's been hot.
If I see somebody jogging in the middle of the day, I'm like, what in the hell is wrong with you? Do you really hate yourself
It's
that
been
much?
like 108. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. I don't want to be jogging outside.
Heck no. Yeah, 108 here in Texas. It's just a beast of a summer.
Yeah.
Not cool. It's cool if you have a pool. Haha, I rhymed. But honey, you need to make me a pool because I'm a water baby. So I will definitely have
Once we move,
our pool, margaritas with fresh lemonade. And I'm telling you guys, I went on this whole like I'm gonna make fresh lemonade kick. And so I decided this past weekend,
that's what we're drinking now.
I traveled to my hometown because we were having kind of sort of like a family reunion. I mean, you give Mexicans any reason to party, and we're gonna have a fiesta. And it was a fiesta, and so I was like, my brilliant ideas were like, ooh, I'm gonna make my lemonades at a fiesta. Let me tell you, my clavicle was sore the next day. My wrist was sore the next day because I was muddling.
Muddle.
Yeah, I was like mush, but it was like muddle. You know, I was like muddling lemonades like all night because again, the party was outside. It was hot as hell. And my lemonade was just so refreshing. I mean, people were texting me and messaging me today, asking me for my recipe. And, yeah, it was like it's just a standard recipe you can find anywhere. But, you know, I made fresh lemonade for everybody, and it was amazing. And I'm just on this lemonade kick. So it's going to... I feel and I sense that my husband's going to have to grow citrus for me, one. And two, that I'm always going to have lemons at the house to make anybody that comes and visits me a fresh glass of lemonade. So... I
very much want to grow citrus.
Yeah.
We already have our first few citrus trees, and they're in containers out in front.
Yeah. My husband today, he asked me, can you make me a lemonade? I had to make him 3. And they're 32-ounce cups, so they're big cups, and he loves them, so...
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
There's not very much
I think
sugar.
It'll be a nice bonus when he's working outside and putting stuff together for me to make him a fresh lemonade.
Yay! I get to be a slave.
Yeah, but then you get fresh lemonade.
Oh.
And then you get to make me bread.
Huh. Yay. It's going to be great. All right, guys. We appreciate y'all listening. We love our listeners.
Oh, where do we get a spike? Oh, we need to give Australia, our friend, a shout out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Big Blue.
Forget that.
Sorry. Yeah. Big Blue. Big shout out. Big Blue managed to get us some seeds from finger lime trees. We were talking about finger limes and wanting finger lime trees. And so they got us some seeds, which was super cool. Now we just got to see if they're going to grow. Yeah, we got a bunch of other really cool seeds in there as well. Super excited to get those going and see what they turn into. Very excited. Thank you very much, Big Blue. We love our listeners.
Much love. I got my candle. You sent me a scented candle. You sent me a cinnamon stick reed. You sent me some earrings. You sent our daughter a nice little plushie.
Oh, dude, she loves that thing.
Zoe from Sesame Street, and she loves her. And so we really appreciate you. That really struck a chord in our hearts, and just the fact that we make an impact across the globe, like. You have no idea what that meant. I literally had bragging rights the whole day because it's not every day that you can connect with somebody, you know, in Australia and that's going to send you something. It's just so special. And so thank you very much. We really appreciate you guys.
Oh, yeah. We love our listeners. If you guys would ever like to get in touch with us, you can do that through ThisFeralLifePodcast at gmail.com. You can also get a hold of us through, we have the Instagram.
Yeah,
This Feral Life Instagram.
Yep. We have our Instagram. If you guys want to support us in our, endeavors in trying to get this off the ground, definitely visit our Etsy shop, This Feral Life.
You can like us on Facebook too. We have This Feral Life with our little Howling Wolf logo is on Facebook as well. You can get a hold of me from there, or both of us from there pretty quick. And
if you want to be a guest, also message us. Let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on.
Totally have you on, and we'll just shoot the breeze and see what's going on your neck of the woods, and ask you what your experience with farming and self-sustaining has been, and trade secrets.
And what got you into it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a story. It's always fun to talk to them.
Exactly.
With that, guys, and our toddler on the basis of a meltdown.
One other shout out. Can I give a shout out?
Sure.
So, something that I read that was really cool about an actor, Josh Duhamel. Like, I think, I loved you as an actor already, but you're a total badass because apparently you're, like, you have a whole, like, a compound or a nice little prepper cabin in North Dakota, I think it was. And man, that is so freaking cool. I mean, I thought you were rad already. You're just that much cooler, man. So give us a shout out, reach out to us, say hello, like come on our show. Like that would be amazing to hear your story. So that's all I wanted to say.
And our toddler's melting down.
And it's time for bedtime.
Time for bedtime. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the day. Sorry for a little bit shorter episode. We got a lot of stuff going on. We'll have a longer one for you. If there's anything you'd like to hear about specifically, please shoot us a message, shoot us an email. If you have any complaints, comments, concerns, or want to be on the show, you can also do that. This is going to be ThisFeralLifePodcast at gmail.com. Our Etsy is ThisFeralLife.etsy.com, and you can find all sorts of our goods and swag over there. And our book, our first cookbook, our bread book, will be up on there. Give me a week or two. I need to actually, there's a couple of the breads that I haven't made recently. I need to make and take pictures of so that I can put them in the book. But it'll all be absolutely step-by-step, picture-by-picture, and it'll be, very high production value. You guys will like it. It'll be available as an ebook, and you could just print it off if you wanted it. But I don't believe it's going to be in a print book at this time because it's just going to be a booklet, maybe 25 to 50 pages. But give me a couple weeks on that, and I'll have that together for y'all. All right, guys. We love you, and good night.
Good night.